people like Jacques Pepin would come in and make his grandmother's apple tart and picked up the Pyrex pie dish with his bare hands, like right out of the oven. It like this stuff would happen every day. Yeah. And you're just pinching yourself. You're like, this is why I got into this. This is why I got into this career. And I never knew food was going to open up those doors.
This is Taste. I'm your host, Matt Rodbard. Hunter Lewis joined me in the studio for an entertaining conversation about his career working in food media. Hunter has led Food and Wine as editor-in-chief since 2017, and before that held editorial roles at Cooking Light, Southern Living, Bon Appetit, and Savour. That is some resume, and we talk through his various stops as well as dig into the terrific work being done at Food and Wine today. I also asked Hunter about the general health of editorial in 2025. I hope you enjoy this episode. Hunter Lewis, welcome to This Is Taste. What a pleasure to have you in the studio.
Matt, thanks for having me.
I cannot believe we've never met. Crazy.
Well, I'm glad we're doing it right here. I love the podcast and love your work. We've loved publishing some of it in Food and Wine, and a little jealous of some of your travels.
Well, thanks, buddy. It's mutual, big time. I've written for Food and Wine, and your team is amazing. But of course, a lot of my peers work on the publication, and the work you're doing with this new July issue and so many other tent poles with best new chefs. I really look to Food and Wine all the time as really a North Star in our industry. So congratulations, man.
Thank you. Very, very grateful for that.
I wanted to have you in to talk about your career a bit. I think it's a very unique career. Many have mentioned you who we've had on the show as a mentor. I think that you're extremely popular in the industry, and that's very merited. But I just want to hear a little bit about a background, because you've worked at some cool places. But first, when you're in New York, you split time between Birmingham and New York. Where are you going restaurant-wise? What are you fitting in right now?
Right now, top of mind, Kabawa.
Yeah.
I mean, not only is Paul's cooking incredible, but that's the best playlist in the city.
Yeah,
I mean, the way like his reggae playlist that he curated with songs without words, but it's all rhythm and beat. It's such a cool vibe.
Yeah.
I am obsessed with Four Horsemen. I'm 10 years too late to the party.
You're a newbie.
I'm a newbie.
Amazing.
I've gone to Four Horsemen 5 times in the past 6 months. Straight off the plane from Birmingham on a Monday night, go sit at the bar. Love Nick Cortola's cooking, and going to Cavallini next week. Kike Crudo in our neighborhood in the West Village. Cosme Aguilar is cooking some of the best food in New York City right now. I just went back last night for a quick tostada. I really love this whole like funky movement that's been happening over the past year with places like Bridges. It's a cool spot, Kiko.
Yeah, Kiko's cool.
And then like I always return to the OGs. I was at Houseman the other night. I love Ned's
off
cooking.
Hudson Street.
Yeah,
Houseman is still. It makes the New York Times top list always, and no one talks about it.
Yeah.
It's one of those quiet restaurants.
Yeah. His fishing rods were on the coat rack.
Yeah.
Like you could just walk out to the Hudson and drop a cast out in the Hudson for striped bass. Barbudo, which is my, that was my cooking school, and always do a lunch there. And had a really killer dinner at Chez Matant recently.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Chez Matant, Greenpoint, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So how do you split time between these two cities? And I just have to ask you, home cooking is so important to you. Are you cooking in both kitchens? I mean, I can't imagine the balance of the two, having these two.
Yeah, so I come up to New York during the school year. I've got a 13-year-old and an 11-year-old. I come about once every 5 weeks. And, our home office is here in New York City down on Liberty Street. So it's great to be with the team there. And then during the summer when the kids are out of school and they're in camps, my wife Jen and I come up a bunch. So we've been here for 3 weeks. And I love being here in June and July. It's that mix of scouting restaurants for work and being out and having meetings. But, I'm a home cook first.
You really are.
I identify as a home cook. As Jonathan Waxman called me Not so nicely when I was a line cook. He said, you're such a glorified home cook. He didn't mean it as a compliment, but I've really embraced that. That's my role at Food and Wine at the helm, is to be a glorified home cook and to really channel the trends and the lessons and the techniques and ingredients that we see and eat and taste out in restaurants today, channel that for home cooks through our recipes. And I've learned so much from the people that we cover. But I'm very much a simple home cook. And so in Birmingham, that's cooking 6 nights a week, really. And that's really balancing my workload with the kids' schedules and my wife's schedule and coaching youth lacrosse. But putting dinner on the table 6 nights a week, that's my soul. That's how I get grounded. And then when we're up in New York, it totally changes. Yes, we're out and we're eating out a lot, but we walk to the Union Square Green Market about 3 days a week. Our stove in a little 600 square foot rental in the West Village is a Magic Chef, probably from the 70s.
Yeah.
You can fit quarter sheet pans in the oven. And so it's really it's more a la minute. It's more what's going on in the market. And, we can kind of cherry pick and hit the butcher like Otto Manelli's down on Bleecker and go get specialty goods.
Yeah. That's a exciting proposition for an editor-in-chief of a publication that really focuses on home cooking, to have both spaces in your own personal repertoire.
It really keeps me connected. Birmingham's so interesting. And when I took over at Food and Wine 8 years ago, the big push from Time Inc., which was our owner at the time, was connect Food and Wine to our food studios in Birmingham, test all your recipes down there, create a massive footprint down there, keep some of the editorial up in New York, and figure out how to do it. What they didn't know and bargain for, because we had already been in Birmingham for a bit, is that we can make world-class content there and tell award-winning stories there. But it gave us a much broader perspective of how people shop and cook and buy wine and entertain. You're not shopping for groceries in New York City out of your car, and you're not going to the grocery store for that one big haul on Sundays.
Yeah, or going on the subway.
Yeah, so it helped us connect to consumers in a very real way, because Food and Wine was very much in the New York City bubble. And that's not a criticism of the way that Dana and team did it before. It's just what it was. That was the culture of the brand. And, now since we've got new ownership with Dotdash Meredith, that center of the company and the brand has come back to New York in a nice way, and created a new kind of balance. So, it really is this sort of dual living of suburban Birmingham and urban New York, with some California thrown in too. But I wouldn't have it any other way right now.
Yeah, and is that where you're finding your readers are for Food and Wine?
They're everywhere, you know, but of course they're in major markets. When we host the Food and Wine Classic in Aspen, those consumers are coming from New York, they're coming from California, they're coming from Texas. So big markets, but everywhere we go, we're finding people that cook from Food and Wine and use our restaurant recommendations. So
yeah, well, let's get into your career.
Okay,
that's wonderful. Savour, Bon Appetit, and now Food and Wine. I mean, it's the trifecta. It's the three major food publications in our country for a long time. Gourmet, of course, but RIP Gourmet. And you started Savour in the test kitchen, working up on 32nd Street in the old offices and working under James Osland. And we've covered it a lot on the show. We had a great Savour week last year. And it's such an important publication. You really were a foundation of the Osland era. What's it like working up there in this very scrappy, high metabolism, crazy place?
I just come out of being a line cook at Barbuto under Jonathan Waxman and Justin Smiley, and I had helped Jonathan open a restaurant in Sonoma County in an awesome little town called Sebastopol. And then I moved back east because the whole point of me going into restaurants was to build that foundation so I could get into food media in a real way. And working at Savour was an extension of the restaurant kitchen. It was chaotic, but if you had the chops and if you were hungry and you could prove yourself, then you belonged. And being there really created the foundation for my magazine media journalism career because, I'd worked in newspapers. I went to journalism school, learned, in a very vocational way how to write a story almost as if you're like building an engine. But Saveur was that was finishing school. That was almost like getting a PhD. And it was so competitive, and it really taught me about this marketplace of ideas, and that you're competing in a really in a nice way with your teammates to get your stories seen. And it was a given that you were going to get nominated for Beard Awards. It was a given that you're going to get nominated for National Magazine Awards, and it really set that level of excellence. And Jim Oslin really set that tone, and we all were in it. And that test kitchen was such an awesome place to run, and it gave me such exposure to incredible chef talent. People like Jacques Pepin would come in and make his grandmother's apple tart, and picked up the Pyrex pie dish with his bare hands, like right out of the oven. It like this stuff would happen every day, and you're just pinching yourself. You're like, this is why I got into this. This is why I got into this career, and I never knew food was going to open up those doors. And fast forward to now. So I started at Saveur back in 2008, and with Ben Mims in the test kitchen.
Yeah.
And Ben, he's one of the best cooks I've ever worked with. Fast forward to now, when I took over at Food and Wine 8 years ago, we hired Karen Shimizu to be our executive editor. She and I came up together at Saveur. And there's a lot of that Saveur DNA in Food and Wine, and diving deep into origin stories and really nerding out. And I love what Kat's doing at Saveur. I'm so happy that
the reboot,
that magazine is viable again, and it's so beautiful. And it's not a competitor. It belongs in the space, and having that magazine be in that media brand be a viable entity is good for all.
There shouldn't be competitors right now in
no,
any
it's good.
food
It's
publication.
Good for all of us.
We all need to work together. We need to champion each other. We need to support it, because I think it's a big audience and a captive audience, but they're finding food in many different places.
Yeah, and I look at it a lot like, I don't know, I compare too many things to sports, but like huge basketball fan, grew up in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, huge Tar Heel fan. And I think a lot about it. Like, I wish food media right now was more like the 90s Bulls against the Pistons and the Knicks. Like, I wish there was more of that competition around, because I think it's good for everybody. It sharpens your edge.
For sure, I agree. I think you need to have like Fighting for Scoops. I think about the online community, like back when it was like Time Out, Village Voice, Eater, Grub Street, City Search, other publications fighting it out. I think that we'd have a healthier discourse about New York City restaurants if we had more media covering it. Really, really heartened by the New York Times investing in more criticism on the restaurant side with 2 full-time critics, and just boosting up more smaller reviews. We're yet to see at this time of this recording if it's going to actually happen, but they've been signaling that it's going to happen. And I feel like competition is really healthy, but we're at a place where we just aren't funded. And Taste is fine, and you guys are great. When you drop your new issue, it makes a really loud sound, so you're full of ads. But not everyone is there right now. It's a really tough time.
Yeah, I think that Akamaya review and the Kabawa review over the past 2 weeks, those were bangers.
Yeah.
I mean, that makes me so excited about restaurant criticism and where it's going, at least at the Times. And I appreciate that investment.
Named one of the Wall Street Journal's 10 best places to go in 2025, Traverse City is northern Michigan magic. Think sparkling blue waters, golden dunes, and of course, incredible food. This summer marks the debut of the Traverse City Food and Wine Festival, running August 20th through 24th. The event highlights both national and local chefs, including Tyler Florence, Ji-Hae Kim, Mei Lin, and Kate Williams, and features ticketed dinners, a grand tasting tent, and wine tasting. Visit TraverseCityFoodandWine.com for details. So, Hunter, you move on to Bon Appetit, which I think at the time you moved there in the early aughts, or 2012, I don't know, you tell me the time, but it's a time when they're very different publications. And that must have been an interesting shift. You weren't at BA for that long until you headed down south, but it must have been interesting to make that cultural shift for your career.
Wild shift. And I got that job because Matt and Ted Lee, I had worked for on their first cookbook, doing a little research, and they recommended me to Adam Rappaport when he was taking over Bon App, and that whole shift. It was right after Gourmet folded, and Condé had they propped up BA, brought it to New York, and brought a whole new team in. And so I came on as the first food editor of the newly rebranded BA. And I remember that first day walking into the test kitchen, and it was probably a year after Gourmet had shuttered, and it looked like a bomb had gone off in New York City. It was like post-apocalyptic. The cabinets were open, and people had raided, the pantries, and what was left was like this incredible assortment of cooking equipment and tools from 4 decades of gourmet. There were, heart-shaped tart pans and incredible tools for making charcuterie, stuff that would not have been relevant in that era. But you could tell like there was this whole history of this brand there, still there. So in some ways it was sad, but it was also thrilling because we had this opportunity to totally rebrand BA. And make several mistakes along the way, like putting. I won't go there.
Let's go there.
Yeah. No,
I mean, there's mistakes that everyone makes in editorial worlds. Like we all make mistakes. So with cover choices, with people we feature who maybe have a past we don't know. What was that mistake? It was just tip of your tongue.
Well, I think that we were so bullish and so the attitude during that era. Was if we think it's cool, it's cool.
Yep.
If we are obsessed with this thing, everybody's going to be obsessed with that thing. And to a degree, it really worked. But I remember the backlash we got from readers when we put Gwyneth Paltrow on the cover.
Yeah.
And that's no shade to Gwyneth because, she's a great cook and she's done some great cookbooks. But I think that was an experiment of not really listening to your readers. And it wasn't until I began to sit in focus groups later in my career and really taking that reader feedback of figuring out how do you marry that gut instinct and that, this is cool, we want to do it, with what readers are actually going to do and make, and kind of marry those two things together.
I'll give you grace because I think of the era, the online discourse was about certainty and was about having the final word. And I think that it leaked into the pages of BA where it was sassier in a way, it was exciting, but it was definitely, there was gatekeeping, and it was like, this is the best place. We're going to maybe tell you a little bit about it. And I think it worked because there was definitely a brand that Adam built that is felt today. I mean, it was an amazing run that he was able to make food something that it wasn't before, and I give him a lot of credit for that on the show. And I just think that we've naturally evolved into a more holistic approach to journalism and.
Well, I think that the editorial process has gotten more democratic in terms of the decision making, in terms of who are the voices in the room, in terms of the types of stories you go after. So I will say that test kitchen at Bone App during that time was a murderer's row. I mean, it was insane how good that talent was. Kate Chun, one of the most natural cooks in the world, was there. Mary Frances Heck. Chris Morocco was really just getting his start.
He talked about setting up the kitchen with you. You hired him.
He did.
He worked at Vogue, and you'd hired him on a whim, and you gave him his start, and he's now the director.
Yeah, and Chris really knew how Condé operated. He knew how the building worked.
Yeah.
He was like Morgan Freeman and Shawshank Redemption. He was like the guy who could get things.
Yeah.
Brad Leone came in as an intern. Allison Roman came in. She was working at Pies and Thighs, and we hired her on freelance. And you could tell her talent immediately. Like she just had the unquantifiable it in her fingertips. Iwande Komolafe cooked part time there. So this is who we got to come to work with every day. And that and Christine Mulkey.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the very best editors I've ever had. In my life, she can take a story and polish it with a filigree unlike anybody else. Keep it in your voice and make you feel good about the changes. Like so talented and such an incredible eye for trends and talent.
Yeah, I mean, it was a magic trick. Every issue of BA during that era, it felt like there was always exciting discoveries in there.
Not sustainable.
It's not sustainable. Let's talk about that. I think. I want to ask you just one insider media question, but I think it's important, and I grapple with it all the time running Taste. It's this existential crisis about text on the page, internet, websites, and really typing into your computer and publishing. I'm trying to be as explicit as possible when I say text on the page. And it's dying. We're having an extinction event with text on the page, particularly on the monetization side and the side of keeping our businesses running and getting people to actually care about text on the page with so much competition. AI is, of course, part of the conversation. AI is draining the energy out of publishing text on the page, and it's becoming less and less relevant. How do you grapple with this this event that I think is happening in real time?
I can't speak for the industry as a whole. I can't speak for other brands, and maybe I'm naive, but I think that AI, and I think that the pending cliff that we're all looking at with Google Zero, in some ways, is going to make Food and Wine, the magazine, more valuable. This printed page that you read in a different way, you absorb in a different way, you engage in a different way, is still so viable for our audience. Our circulation is super strong. In some ways, it's not a one-to-one with vinyl records, but there is something about opening up the magazine that I can equate to, putting the needle on a record, and that super rich tone that you hear, and and some of the imperfections and the blips you hear within that record. I look at the magazine in that way. And look, are magazines going to be around in 100 years? Don't know. But I really am bullish that AI is something that is going to make our printed product more valuable.
Completely agree. I think printed products and brand, and it all comes from brand and having real brand allegiance. Those are the media companies that are going to survive. But you still have to dial down your investments when the money from digital, the digital side is being sucked up by other forms.
Yeah, and I think too, it's for us, we've got a really nimble team. I love this team at Food and Wine. It's the sharpest team I've ever worked with. They care deeply about one another. They want to see one another succeed, and they are very game to figure out what is the right platform for the story that we're doing or the recipe. And we've begun to think much more intelligently about, okay, is this a newsletter story first? Is this an Instagram type of story first? Does this belong first on Google Discover or Apple News, or should it be rooted in the magazine first and start there, and then it goes elsewhere?
And then it's flip.
Yeah, and then we've gotten smarter over time of thinking about how to take, because very few stories in the magazine work in a one-to-one way with how you publish that on the site. But if we do a wine story and it's 50 great bottles from Italy, maybe you parcel that out and you think about, okay, there's a piece of that actually is going to work on a story online that's going to perform. So we've gotten much better at that sort of thing. And so, we have a lot of resources tied up in telling great stories and publishing great recipes in the magazine. But the way that our team works across all platforms, we're much more nimble now than we used to be, because you have to be.
Nimble's great, and just being able to change too. That's part of being nimble. And I think that we clearly are thinking about vertical video a lot everywhere. It's definitely the trend and the tastes of the moment. I mean, what's your biggest growth opportunity in terms of the revenue side for Food and Wine?
Events.
Yeah.
I never knew when I went to journalism school at UNC in my hometown of Chapel Hill that I was going to become an event producer and an event co-host. And the events in terms of the growth, we've been doing the Food and Wine Classic in Aspen. We just got back from that after the 42nd year. We're going into our second year of the Food and Wine Classic in Charleston. It's an incredible opportunity to be in front of our consumers. It's an incredible opportunity to be with the chef community. And it's a reunion of sorts. And it's a great opportunity for sponsors and advertisers and partners to be on board and to connect with those same people. And so events are a big piece of what we do. And the cool part about it for me, yes, I get hung up on the revenue. Yes, this is a business, and I'm very business minded about it because, as I said before, like I'm very invested in keeping this team intact and getting people paid and growing their careers. That's what motivates me when I go on a sales call. But the cool thing about events is that we're figuring out how to bring journalism to life on the stage. And by that, I mean, we did this story last year called The City That Rice Built. And it just won a National Magazine Award. Kind of bananas because it's food and wine's
Yeah,
first.
we had Jeff Gardner on the show to talk about that great piece, the terrific piece.
And just won a Beard Award. And we assigned that story to Jeff Gardner and to George McCallman because we were starting the Food Wine Classic in Charleston. And we wanted to invest in the community, and we want to invest in telling the stories of Gullah Geechee food culture. And, how do you tell the story of 400 years of, history, and how do you talk about slavery, and how do you talk about foodways? And so we thought about narrowing it down to like the smallest thing possible, and that was a grain of rice. And so Jeff and George went down to Charleston, came back with incredible material, turned it into this beautiful story. But the purpose of this also was figuring out how to bring this to life on stage. So we debuted the story at Kwame Onwuachu's family reunion event, and we had a panel conversation about rice. And then we brought it to life in Charleston on the stage, and we had a similar conversation with different people. The energy in the room and in an audience at the family reunion where it was probably 95% Black versus the energy in a room in Charleston where the story was based, where that room was maybe 75% white, was so different. We were in this place where the story was created, where, not far from the port of Charleston, where an estimated 40% of all enslaved people came through. I mean, that energy was so palpable. And then we brought the story to life at a brunch the next day, where a lot of the Gullah Geechee chefs, their dishes were on the table. And so it really opened my eyes and gave me goosebumps and made me think about how you can create journalism in a real life setting and bring it to life to the stage in a different way. And I'm geeking out about this right now because for me, I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Oh, this is how we can do these events in a meaningful way. And it's like the same thing about like bringing Gramercy Tavern and their 30th anniversary to life in Aspen. Aspen is where Danny Meyer and Tom Colicchio had the idea to launch Gramercy. So let's bring Gramercy back to Aspen 30 years later and do a special dinner. And so this is the stuff that I'm really, really invested in thinking about doing at our events down the road.
I'm into it. I fully agree that having an offline strategy is super important for a publication. I also think that to separate the journalism from the event is smart and also allow the folks who are participating in the journalism, who are obviously giving their time and resources to tell a story, are then maybe getting, there's some monetization there. They're being paid for their work. So you can share in that a bit, which I think is ethically sound.
Yes.
If you tell the story in one setting and then you have the event in the other, I strive for that.
Yeah, and it's about not doing a drive-by event. It's not a pop-up event. You're investing in the community.
Yeah.
You're investing in local voices and centering those people and letting them lead it too.
I'm into it. I love that strategy, and I hope you do more of it. And I'm sure you have some other cities you're going to launch festivals in. You don't have to tell me. I'm not going to push you because I think.
Yeah, I think we're good with 2 for now.
Okay, you're good for now. Okay, all right.
But we'll see.
Okay. Well, I want to talk about magazine covers because I think it's a huge part of your job is to make that cover work. I worked in magazines early in my career, and cover meetings were intense, like especially cover line meetings, and just thinking about photography. And I think Food and Wine is really on a hot streak with covers. I love the July issue. It's a really tight shot at 3/4, beautiful food styling, and you're on fire. They're looking great. Hunter, I want to ask you, what are some things you look for in a cover? And I want to know the absolute no's for covers for Food and Wine.
There are not a lot of no's.
Okay.
I think
blue food is cool.
Yeah, I don't believe in any of that. I think the pandemic taught us a lot in that, we were all at home making this magazine via Zoom, and you really just had to let it rip. You had to get off your high horse and really make decisions quickly, not belabor things. And we sold a lot of magazines during that period by doing things in a different way. So it made me relax a bit more about covers. I'll say this: we're not making like money hand over fist on newsstand.
Yeah,
newsstand
sell-through is less important.
Yeah, newsstand is so different now than it used to be. And I remember being in those same kind of meetings, the Coverline meetings. I've sat through dozens of hours of focus groups. 15 layers of approvals on covers, and it's a much more simple process now.
Good.
Is it delicious? Does it convey the theme of that issue in a meaningful way? Are home cooks going to want to make it? Can they readily identify what it is? So I'd say 9 issues, 10 issues a year. It's super straightforward. It's seasonal. It's colorful. Mm-hmm. Come up with a compelling main line that helps sell that food and that cover. And then a couple times a year, we really like take a bigger swing and we go for it. And maybe it's less commercially viable, but we're in a restaurant and we're shooting, and it's more about the romance. It's more about the feeling.
Yeah.
It's much more about the zeitgeist of what's happening in culture today. But this July cover with the Red Boat Fish Sauce Family's Noodle Bowl, it's one of my favorites. And one of the cool things, talking about bringing journalism to life at events, like this is the cover that's blown up large in the Grand Tasting Tents in Aspen. And then we had Kwong and his family from Red Boat come and pour their Cabernet Sauvignon. We had Red Boat micheladas. We had this noodle bowl on offer for all the consumers of the event. So yet another way for people to meet the people in the pages of Food and Wine in real life settings. And that was super meaningful because Red Boat really changed my cooking life.
Oh, I agree. I think I wrote you a note before this interview. I got to go to Fuquoc and spend time with Kwong and his fam there around the same time you discovered it in 2011. And I agree with you fully. It's a very smart editorial point of view for that product. I think if we go back in time, fish sauce was maligned. And a lot of people were used to the squid products and really not that pure fish sauce from Fuquoc that isn't using fillers and all that. And also as a flavor profile, right? Fish sauce has really entered the lexicon in a serious way. I mean, fish sauce, Brussels sprouts. I mean, we remember the days when, that's a David Chang dish, probably his game changer, truly. And now we find fish sauce everywhere. So it was really savvy to focus on it. What did you write in your editor's letter? Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So 2011, when Red Boat came about, I had been cooking with Three Crabs and Squid Brand, and Andrew Nguyen was an early teacher for me in that Saveur test kitchen and working through her recipes and really beginning to embrace flavor profiles from Southeast Asia through recipes first.
Yes.
Not through travel first, but figuring out these recipes and ratios and the way that you balance flavor. And then Red Boat comes along, and my daughter was born, and I was trying to figure out shortcut ways to deliver big flavor at home without a lot of effort. And here was this beautiful, super pure ingredient that like you just can taste the quality right off the bat. And it just balanced so well. And so I used it for everything from nuoc cham to, seasoning pho. But then it really started to become infinite in the application, and, replacing anchovies in places, or, then just adding a dash here, a dash there.
Marinara to a red sauce.
Everything. Yeah. And so you fast forward to now, my daughter is now 13, and she and my 11-year-old can't articulate it, but they know when it's not there. Mm-hmm. And they're sitting at the table and they say, "Dad, something's missing." And they're actually getting that way with MSG now too. Like if we make a chicken broth and it doesn't have a pinch of MSG in it, it doesn't have that lip smacking quality. They like, something's missing here. You forgot something. And for them, it's funny to see it through their eyes and through their palates at 11 and 13. Like they can't articulate what it is, but they're so used to it in my cooking now that they can spot it.
I love that we've evolved to an era where MSG is actually considered a game changer. Ajinomoto is one of your many game changers, and you're doing something that has been discussed in food writing and on podcasts a lot. So I don't think we need to refresh that MSG is not bad for you. It is in a lot of our foods, and it really helps home cooks bring flavor. But about the game changers, Hunter, I want to know, what's that edit meeting like? I mean, you have such a cool list. You've got Date Pit Coffee from Atomo, Little Sesame Hummus. You write about freight farms, and then Sheila Johnson from Florida is profiled. I mean, it's a really interesting mix. I mean, you could have gone in many directions. You landed on these. What makes a game changer?
A game changer has to be a person or a company who is changing the way we eat or drink or travel. And that's a pretty broad definition. So the editorial process led by Amelia Schwartz, shout out to Amelia. We take submissions from all of the food writers and chefs in our orbit and freelancers, and we put together a long list. And we meet and we meet and we meet. And in some ways, I talked about having that Saveur DNA within the pages of Food and Wine. It's a little bit like making the old Saveur 100. But you're picking 15.
I see it. Yeah.
And then we filter it through our content pillars and the different categories that we cover, from chefs and restaurants to home cooking and recipes to home goods, to what's at the supermarket, to what's happening in the travel space. And we sort of break it down and make sure we have representation across those broad categories. And then, it's a know it when we see it. It's is this interesting, and how does this balance this other thing? And then are there enough items on the list that people can actually go out to the supermarket and buy without having a special order? Or if it's somebody like Sheila Johnson, who we've gotten great exposure to over the years in supporting the family reunion event. You see Sheila lead her teams, and you feel the hospitality in her spaces, and you see what she's doing in terms of giving platforms and mentorship to Black chefs across the country. She's undoubtedly a game changer. Mm-hmm. So it's really about trying to figure out that editorial mix, and it's gut level decisions, but also we have to quantify, like, how is this person or company actually changing the game? What is their scale? How are they disrupting a particular category in an industry? And so it really takes about 6 months to develop. So if you've got any recommendations for 26, always, we're taking them, man.
Listen to our podcast.
Yeah.
We have so many on the show, many guests and things mentioned between Eliza and I on 3 things. Where are you at with Thanksgiving right now? We're recording this in mid-July. Are you wrapped on your cover image?
Shot our cover yesterday. Yesterday in Birmingham. We shoot a lot of our photography in the food studios in Birmingham.
Yeah,
got a really talented team there. So that's in the bag.
Good for you. It's a good feeling, I bet.
It's a good feeling. And then we're actually going to reverse engineer. We're going to shoot another cover try for the October issue, the issue before in New York tomorrow. So, Thanksgiving's a trip. I mean, if you work in this business long enough, as you know, by the time Thanksgiving actually comes around, you're so over it.
Because you've editor, are you kidding me?
You've been cooking it and talking about it all summer in the swelter of July. You're smelling turkey stock mid-July. God, if we never have to run another turkey recipe ever again.
Yeah.
But the other cool thing about it, though, is that it's a singular focus. It's like it is the feasting season. It's a celebration. Yeah. People are always looking for that additional side dish or that dessert or that bottle of wine. So, our aim is to give good weight and give good service and do it in a warm and hospitable way. So that's what Thanksgiving is all about.
I think Food and Wine has the power, and maybe with some help from like BA and maybe Taste, we could like create a new food holiday. I feel like we could like.
Can we please?
I mean, please.
And do not allow turkey in the room.
Yeah, no turkey. Let's. I mean, like. It could be like March. I know we've got like St. Patrick's Day, which is not okay, fine. But I mean, we could go there.
March Festivus.
There's definitely like a March, like you are still cooking through winter. Spring is on the horizon. The ramps are popping. To me, that's the best time to be a home cook, especially when you're stuck in many parts of the country that don't have covered with snow. Like you're starting to get that early produce, but it's cold. We're still in our homes. I think like mid-March, that is like when our food holiday should be.
Well, and that's when people are craving to be together because you're coming off of the jag of the December holidays and New Year's, and then you hunker down and you've got shorter days and you're cooking your tail off through the winter. And everybody wants to gather. So I'm all for it. What do we call this thing?
I mean, it's like an Ides of March like theme. Like let's rebrand the Ides of March, which has a lot of history and negativity, but like, I don't know, like we could riff.
And can we not do St. Paddy's Day?
No, it's not St. Paddy's Day. Like let Ireland have that. That's theirs. This is like US-based food holiday, mid-March. I think we can invent something. I think something with like new produce. I think something with going to restaurants.
I'll bring the magnums of wine.
Bring the mags because we're not in like dry January. We're not thinking about that. We're actually having mags. Yeah, let's go offline about that one. We can all come together. We could get all the teams together.
I'll bring all the green spring vegetables that are growing in the deep south that are not growing here.
It's like bring produce to your friends and family in the Northeast and the Midwest who are still under snow.
Maybe we'll go ramp hunting with Alan Benton.
Oh,
off the side of a highway in eastern Tennessee. And that was one of the best cooking moments of my life is going and gathering ramps with Alan and his wife Sharon and a bunch of chefs, and then pulling into a little state park, washing the ramps in this creek and grilling ramps over charcoal and Alan and Sharon rendering all this bacon and ham fat and cooking the ramps in that. It was like, that was such a special day.
That's Tennessee, right?
That's Tennessee.
That's Tennessee. Yeah. I feel like domestic ham, I mean, Europe has taken over the domestic ham business, and I feel like with this protein era that we live in, where protein is more important than ever, like buy more domestic ham.
Totally. We talked about that game-changing Brussels sprouts recipe from David Chang.
Yeah.
You remember when he put that country ham tasting on? I think it was sambar.
Vividly with the mayo, with the instant coffee mayo.
Yes. Yeah. It tasted like a little bit like Durkee's.
Yeah.
But it had. I think it had the espresso powder in it.
Yeah, it had the espresso powder in it. That's a recipe from the Momo book, which I've made many times with grapeseed oil and just like a little bit of spice.
Colonel Newsom's ham, Lady Edison.
Remember that
Benton's.
That menu that they had there? Because like he's doing Momo and like he's known for like the buns and of course ramen at the other shop. But then you like roll up and there's a ham tasting.
Yeah, sambar, that was my jam.
Oh.
Like 10:30, 11 at night. Boozy, like 2-hour meal, and you never knew what you're going to get.
You could get vintage bourbons for like $7 a glass. Like these things with like, if you get a number for under 20, you're lucky in America now. Yeah, those were the days. I mean, it's a sad about Sam. I'm still sad about that restaurant not being there.
Well, I think what we talked about Kabawa, but what's happening there.
It's true.
That gets me really excited about the Momofuku Empire.
It's very true and well said, Hunter. I think that with the Bar Kabawa and the Kabawa coming together, it feels fully Momo, and having those different formats is what they're all about. And then with Paul, and let's move away from like Japan and move into the Caribbean and create this moment of excitement around a cuisine. It's very well said. Yeah.
I mean, I am so excited about the rise of and the celebration of Afro-Caribbean cuisine and America today. I mean, what's happening across the country is bananas. It's a lot like, I mean, you are deeply immersed in Korean food, and I mean, the way it's completely taken over in New York City, especially. But I think about these restaurants like Tatiana and Khan and Bridgetown Roti, and we think about like Bintu Atelier and Charleston, and the future is very, very bright for this cuisine.
It's very true. And I have to shout out Dubu House, which the new complex on 32nd Street, 3 restaurants. It's so exciting to see that among all the fine dining that's opening with Korean in New York City. Last question for Taste Check. Is there a city on your radar that we might not be thinking about in America? I'm putting you on the spot. We didn't prep for this, but I would like to get your take.
Really putting me on the spot here.
I know, right? I like to guide you through these a little bit, but...
I think Charleston, South Carolina right now, and I'm not just saying this because we're invested in it with the Foodman Classic in Charleston, but I think what's happening in Charleston and being able to trace the arc of cuisine in Charleston since I was in high school, it gives me some good perspective. And I think there's a really cool 3.0 movement happening in that city right now where the line cooks that trained under Mike Latta and Sean Brock and some of the OGs are now opening up their own spaces. People like Dan O'Hines at Vern's. Yeah. Jason Stanhope is not he's not part of the new guard, but what he's doing out in Sullivan's Island. I mentioned Bintu Atelier, Cultura, the whole barbecue movement that's happening, this third wave barbecue movement that's happening with Shuai Wang and other folks in Charleston. It's a really exciting place to eat right now.
Yeah, and for the size of the community, I mean, it's a very small place.
It is.
We know about it because it's so legendary in food, but it's a tiny place.
It's like a very tiny Manhattan, the way that the peninsula juts out into the water.
Yeah.
And there are the OGs there, but I think also in thinking about, talked about this before, like centering Gullah Geechee food and Gullah Geechee dishes. I think we're just scratching the surface and thinking about how those dishes should be codified and who should be honored when they're cooked and like what that legacy is. Jeff and George and the City of Rice made a really good point. Like when you go to New Orleans, all of these dishes are codified. They're celebrated. You've got these dishes that are canonical. The same thing should happen in Charleston too. What like red rice and crab rice and purloo, dishes that have been cooked by Black cooks for centuries. Like that's what I'm looking for in Charleston in the next wave of really celebrating that and putting those names on the menu.
The festival's in the fall?
It's in November, yeah. Right during the time of fall harvest and where the oysters are really, really good. So we're going to be cooking outside a lot.
Very cool. Well, Hunter, on This Is Taste, we ask guests about their discerning taste. So to close this interview, here's a little rapid fire, fast and furious taste check. Are you ready?
Ready.
The best fruit.
Best fruit is satsumas from the deep south.
Is there a season for this?
Starts in late September, depending on the variety. Gets really, really good, and that fruit starts to turn from yellow and green to bright orange around November time. It is the sweetest citrus. It is so damn good, incredible with mezcal and tequila, and dressings and salads. And if that's the one fruit I could ship friends, it would be the satsuma.
The worst vegetable?
There's no bad vegetable. I didn't grow up eating a lot of vegetables, but I really, really got turned on by them when I started cooking at Barbudo and going to the green market every day. I'd say the vegetable that's not for me, that I just have not been able to really enjoy, is bitter melon. And that's on me.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it's everyone's taste. I like that. What is your typical breakfast? 2
espressos.
No protein, no grains, just espressos.
I just don't have any consistency in breakfast.
Yeah.
It might be toast. It might be scrambled eggs, but it's not often that I just seek it out and say, oh, I'm going to do this thing. I'm jealous of people that eat the same thing every morning and they have a routine.
You're a night person. Not really?
I'm just not a huge breakfast person.
You're just not a breakfast person?
Yeah.
Okay. I was trying to get into unpack this double espresso.
No, it's there's really very little thought. I'm like a total gorilla in the morning. Nobody wants to talk to me, and I go and pull an espresso and sort of wake up and get some exercise, and maybe I'll eat a piece of toast on the way to work, but it's not something that I give a lot of thought to.
It's the EIC breakfast.
That's not really the answer you're looking for.
No, it's fine. You're being honest. We appreciate honesty here. The best dessert?
I'd say it's a tie. I love an affogato. Speaking of espresso, so dead simple. And I love bitter, except for bitter melon. And then a recipe that we published a long time ago, Nadine Redzepi's walnut bars.
Oh, cool.
They're these incredibly dense, super rich bars like brownies that you make with an ungodly amount of ground walnuts.
So it's a ground walnut flour?
Yeah.
Or they have
you make your own walnut flour
like
by
a homemade walnut flour is
and
like
you eat it like a brownie, but that with like a unsweetened dollop of creme fraiche.
Oh yeah, and it's probably in her cookbook. Great cookbook.
Yep.
Nadine's cookbook. I really
Smart cook.
enjoyed that book when it was out. This is a big one for you. A restaurant you wish you could bring back from the dead.
How about Cafe Nicholson, Edna Lewis, 1948?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I am so taken with her cooking and her books, and I think my culinary roots through restaurants really, I look at Chez Panisse as a touchstone, and that really opened my world to Elizabeth David and Richard Olney, and then I got exposed to Edna Lewis, and her books are hands down some of my favorites, and I think being at Cafe Nicholson in the late 40s, early 50s, and seeing like Marlon Brando and William Faulkner come through the door to eat this woman's cooking and to meet her, this like super stylish woman, I would love to be at that table.
Gelb should just recreate it for our chef's table. He should just like go fiction and research it and just recreate that restaurant.
Gelb, you've got the resources.
Gelb could do that. He listens to the show. Let's get him on that. A couple more. When you're craving fast food, where are you going?
Don't shoot me, people listening, but
always a great start.
My kids are obsessed with Chick-fil-A, and I'd say a Chick-fil-A sandwich. I don't know why they won't just call an Arnold Palmer an Arnold Palmer.
Yeah.
You have to call it a Sunjoy.
Isn't that just the estate? I think Liquid Death ran into some trouble. I think that they're very protective about that. But yeah, they should call him Arnold Palmer.
Yeah.
It's like the small restaurants call it Arnold Palmer, but the estate is like litigious or something. A couple more. Your favorite city outside America to visit for food?
Paris with my wife, Jen Davidson.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so taken by the place. It's so obvious, but eating in wine bars of Paris, places like Le Verre I spending a whole day, a long lunch in the markets. There's nothing better.
Canal Saint Martin, beautiful neighborhood. Love that call. Last one. Your favorite sandwich?
Favorite sandwich, I would say it's a tie. I'm going to say Court Street Grocer's pork roll. Maybe not for breakfast, maybe mid-morning, late morning.
Okay, you're doing okay,
and then before they close down the kitchen late at night, fried bologna sandwich at Robert's Western World in Nashville, Tennessee, which is one of the most epic places in the world. It's like this psychedelic honky-tonk portal into another universe where the music is always good, the beers are really cold, and that fried bologna sandwich is perfect in that setting.
That's incredible. I've never thought of Robert's having food. That's like, I've walked in and checked it out. It's an amazing place. What a great rack. What's the bread choice?
For the sandwich?
Yeah, like
for Roberts?
Yeah, what are they doing?
Squishy, unbranded, like the same kind of way you're going to want a smash burger.
Yeah.
Whatever that like squishy, undefinable bun is.
Yeah. And are there any condiments on it?
Yellow mustard.
Yellow mustard and pickle, I would imagine. If you know, your face is saying
no. It's just straight
yellow
up.
Mustard.
Yeah, fried bologna and squishy bun and yellow mustard and a cold beer and some world-class honky-tonk band.
That is such a sandwich.
And weirdly, like Beck's over in the corner dancing with himself, and some other celebrities over here, and a bachelorette party's over here falling down. What a wild place!
I love that. But I think on TikTok I've seen some Roberts scenes. It's definitely a really cool place. Hunter, what a great conversation! Thank you so much for joining This Is Taste,
Matt. This was a trip. Thanks, man.
This Is Taste is hosted and produced by Eliza Barbanel and me, Matt Rodbard. The show is edited by lead producer Clayton Gumbert and supervised by Pat Stango, Director of Media Production and Development at Penguin Random House. Thanks to Shalia Harris and the production team at Penguin Random House. Theme music by Steve Rydell. Logo and guest illustrations by Ellie Skurzat. Visit Taste online at tastecooking.com and make sure to subscribe to our newsletter to keep updated on all cool things in the world of taste.